Hey there folks, welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art and culture, and this is Billboard Breakdown. So let me give all you guys a quick recap of my past couple of days. I got home from vacation, I put up my big recap video, hope you all saw it. I get ready to set up for my Travis Scott review and then Billboard Breakdown today, and then my editing computer loses multiple cores and experiences systemic hard drive failure. Now I've been having computer problems for the past couple of weeks, so I knew this was coming. Hell, I've got a new machine in transit to me right now, but given the insane album release schedule the next couple of weeks, I was hoping to save the transition for a slower period and not having to work with a machine that's on its last legs. No such luck. Hell, I'm just thankful that Billboard Breakdown seems a little bit slower this week. Gives me a little bit more time to prepare for that shift, but whatever. You don't care about my tech issues, so let's get into our top 10. And even despite a lackluster VMA performance, Closer by the Chainsmokers and Halsey doesn't seem to be going anywhere. The sales are monstrous, it rules streaming and YouTube. The only category it isn't dominating yet is airplay, and given how fast it's rising, that's only a matter of time. Shame I don't like the song more, but it looks like it's gonna stick around, especially as some of its competition seems to be wilting away. Cold Water by Major Lazer, Justin Bieber, and Mia is making an effort with considerable airplay and considerable streaming, but it's not close enough to approach it on YouTube and sales. It's stuck at number 2. And below that, it stops even being close. Heathens by 21 Pilots might have better sales, which took it up to number 3, but without more streaming or airplay, to say nothing of slipping YouTube, I don't see it getting any higher. Then we hit Cheap Thrills by Sia and Sean Paul at number 4, which is finally slipping on airplay and yet has lost enough streaming, sales, and YouTube to reflect its downward trajectory. Hell, it might even get passed by Don't Let Me Down by the Chainsmokers featuring Dea, which picked up to number 5 thanks to a brief streaming revival that only barely conceals both airplay and sales weaknesses. Granted, with This Is What You Came For by Calvin Harris featuring Rihanna, also weak in sales and streaming and losing airplay hard, you can tell that it's only at number 6 thanks to plenty of YouTube. Similar case for Ride by 21 Pilots, which slid down to number 7 as airplay and streaming drops mirrors its weak sales. It could be facing some competition from Treat You Better by Shawn Mendes, which actually has momentum across the board, just not quite enough momentum to rise above number 8 at this moment. It was enough to jump past One Dance by Drake featuring Kyle and WizKid at number 9, which is basically being propped up by streaming and radio inertia and nothing else. It's on the cusp of falling harder and it's only a matter of time, especially if streaming drops away. Finally, re-entering our top 10, we've got Needed Me by Rihanna, which oddly seemed to pick up only a small second win this week, only to slip away to balance out with some sales and streaming. But again, I don't really see this lasting all much longer. And on that promising note, our losers and dropouts. In the latter category, well, if you discount the slew of songs from Frank Ocean that just vanished off their debut, the one big dropout was Love Yourself by Justin Bieber making its long overdue exit. Not really complaining there, even if the song did kind of grow on me a little bit. Our losers, on the other hand, are a considerably bigger mixed bag. On the one hand, I'm not exactly complaining that Kehlani lost all the Suicide Squad momentum with Gangsta falling to 54, or that Wicked by Future fell hard to 86, but the rest? Most of this is a factor of country radio rotating tracks off after 15 weeks, which meant that Church Bells by Carrie Underwood fell to 99, From the Ground Up by Dan and Shay fell down to 60, most disappointingly, Record Year by Eric Church fell hard to 91. Then You Don't Own Me by Grace and G-Eazy lost all the Suicide Squad momentum to 75. It's really been all over the place on the charts this week. I'm not entirely surprised. And then, after returning last week, Cool Girl by Tove Lo collapsed down to 100. Joy. Now granted, when we look at our gains and returning entries, I'm even more confused. For some bizarre reason, Famous by Kanye West featuring Rihanna and Swiss Beats is back yet again to 90. It's not a bad song, so I'm okay with that, but then our gains, again, very much a mixed bag. The big boost came to Make Me by Britney Spears featuring G-Eazy up to 17, but that's stripping off the album Glory that just dropped. I predict a major dropout soon, but the rest are just, well, odd. The one consistent gain came from In the Name of Love by Martin Garrix featuring Bebe Rexha at 57. Solid boost, solid song, I'm on board. And Chill Bill by Rob Stone, Jay Davis, and Spooks got a Never Quiet boost up to 65, another pretty decent song. But when you compare that to Mama Said by Lucas Graham annoying the piss out of me up to 36, or the bland emptiness of Too Much Sauce by DJ Esco, Future, and Lil Uzi Vert up to 82, or that overdone disaster of a song Move by Luke Bryan up to 89 coming in for the fall, not a good sign. Thankfully, right above it at 88 is I Met a Girl by William Michael Morgan, easily one of the most promising talents and for mainstream country that I've heard in some time. So I've got some hope that country's push for a more neo-traditional sound might gain a little bit more traction. And yeah, when I look at some of our new arrivals, you'll see in a second. Let's start off with number 97, I Know Somebody by LoCash. With the moonlit sky. Yeah, I know a guy, I know somebody that's lost all in your smile, that can love you like a song on the radio dial. If that's what you want tonight, I know somebody, and you're looking right in his eyes. So does anybody remember these guys? They had a decent sized hit last year on the country charts with I Love This Life. They did okay on the Billboard Hot 100, but really wasn't anything good courtesy of production that was way too slick and generic lyrics. Well, they actually dropped an album last June that included that song and their newest single, I Know Somebody. Well, it's got all the same issues as I Love This Life. A prominent fake drum machine and hand clap, cheap inorganic production, and nothing with any sort of muscle or punch to match the otherwise okay vocals. Even the lyrical sentiment felt kind of generic. He knows somebody to give this girl a good time, and guess who it is? And you know, I think I'm gonna start coming down a lot harder on these sort of songs. Some critics are giving this a pass for stretching country's boundaries, but when we have a solid core start to re-emerge in terms of neo-traditional sounds, even in the mainstream, I'm sorry, no excuse for this. Pass. Number 95, Scars to Your Beautiful by Alessia Cara. You should know you're beautiful just the way you are, and you don't have to change a thing, the world could change, it's hard. No scars to your beautiful, we're stars and we're beautiful. Oh god, I wish I could root a lot more for Alessia Cara. Go way back to late last year when she released Here, and that song, it has a fair amount of personality in the writing, even if that personality was kind of antisocial and occasionally tough to like. And yet, even though I liked Wild Things, it wasn't striking out enough to stand out. And you can see a lot of her audience abandoning her for Dea, which, for the record, markedly worse. Thankfully, she tilted back towards her sharper writing with Scars to Your Beautiful, a song that tackles self-image and isn't afraid to get a little bit darker into both anorexia and self-harm, and her perceived inability to match that image. And there are some potent lines here, like she praised to be sculpted by the sculptor that I quite liked. I just wish I could praise the instrumentation as much, because the oily underlying warble against the blocky percussion and snap is already starting to feel kind of dated, especially as it doesn't really give any instrumental melody line more swell. It's percussion over melody yet again. Look, I'm rooting for Alessia Cara, but as I said when I reviewed Know It All, I really do wish I could like this song a lot more. Number 87, Wyclef Jean by Young Thug. I know some hoes with great hair, fuck a tutor. So many hundreds, how the hell I'm gonna lose them? Put me in the jacket, out of rape, and now I'm cool. You know, at this point, I have no idea how to feel about Young Thug. I think my biggest issue is that for as much as he can be an interesting performer, his actual content or production is rarely as weird or fascinating enough to draw my interest. A lot of image and personality, not a lot beneath it. In any case, he dropped a new mixtape called Jeffrey that's been getting rave reviews, and I figured I might as well dig into the lead-off single that's not Pick Up the Phone. Let's call it Wyclef Jean. Although, bizarrely, it's not the actual song that features Wyclef on the album. And this is closer to a Young Thug song that I see myself liking. Well, it's because it gets a little bit kookier and weirder all around. The lyrics are not much to write home about, but the interrupted sex of the first verse is kind of funny, and I was amused that Young Thug was bragging more about his kid's success than his own with a pretty decent flow. It's not bad. What I think I enjoyed a lot more was the production though. Diving straight into reggae with the prominent guitar, the liquid bass, the more textured percussion to augment the trap beat, and those cute little horn embellishments that I actually quite liked. So, look, I'm not sure I'm ever gonna be a fan of Young Thug, but this isn't bad. And catch me at the right moment, I might even say that I like this song. Number 85, OOOUUU by Young M.A.
And when it's time to pop, they have no show. Yeah, I'm pretty, but I'm loco. The loud got me moving slow-mo. Hey, yo, Tweety, where the hoes, bro? Hey, yo, Keys, where the hoes, though? That other nigga, he a bozo. It's a man, you don't know.
another week, another generic trap-leaning banger, this time from up-and-coming Brooklyn MC Young M.A, with this being her biggest buzzing single. And really, it's not a good sign when the fact that the novelty of her being an openly lesbian rapper might be the most interesting element of this song, because I really didn't get a lot out of it. Partially because outside of the pretty decent, hazy production with a grainy beat, rough-ebbing synths and shouts, there's not a lot to the content or punchlines that really stood out for me. Where it really became a lot more distracting was how so much of the very same hookup bars translate coming from a female perspective, with lazy jokes, Bobby Shmurda references, and a vocal improvisation for the title. All the more proof that, regardless of sex or orientation, you can still get some mediocre bangers to chart in the Hot 100 these days. And if that's not progressive, I don't know what is. Number 71, Grass Ain't Greener by Chris Brown.
Acting like you've been a player. That grass ain't greener on the other side. That grass ain't greener on the other side.
You know, I'm starting to get to think that outside of some guest hooks, the world might be finally getting sick of Chris Brown. Given that I had already covered Fan of a Fan with John from ARTV last year, I completely skipped over his last album, Royalty. And as such, the most news I heard about him this year was a standoff with Police and a few guest appearances. Or Bryson Tiller sounding just like him, one or the other. In any case, this was intended as a lead-off single released in May for his newest album, and the fact that it's taken this long to chart is kind of telling. Really only on the Hot 100 because of the video dropping right now. And look, I can appreciate that Chris Brown has embraced his full douchebag nature on songs like this. There's an audience for that. But am I really supposed to like this guy on the song where he's complaining about his side bitch moving on? Especially on the rap verse where he paints this girl as the scheming gold digger, counting his money, drinking his booze, and then ripping the condom off in sex to ensure child support. It's just ugly, not helped by the sloppy pitch correction trying to shove Chris Brown's voice back on tune. That said, if I were to compliment anything about the song, the distant twinkle of the melody against the skittering trap snare and 808, it's not bad. And the hook does kind of stick with you, but look, it feels gross. I get why this wasn't really a hit before, and I could easily do without it now. Skip it. Number 56, May We All by Florida Georgia Line featuring Tim McGraw.
That new track record.
So I didn't really touch on Florida Georgia Line's big follow-up collaboration and second single off their newest album, Dig Your Roots, while either on vacation or in the recap. Both because that Backstreet Boys collaboration kind of overshadowed this in terms of importance for me. But that's also because this is an incredibly frustrating song. Sure, Tim McGraw sounds fine enough, and there's a decent underlying melody anchoring the track, but it's also a song with the thinnest trap snare running through the background, a liquid guitar tone that feels completely swamped out in a mix trying for depth and failing miserably. And did I mention the painfully overmixed percussion? And then there's some of the lyrics. Play the Travis Tritt right above the Tupac. Are you kidding me? It's a song that worships small towns, but feels so jumbled and lacking in specifics that any sort of homegrown connection goes right out the window with a non-existent warmth in the mix. In the end, it just feels cold, stiff, overmixed, and painfully calculated, which is not what you want for downbeat, mature authenticity. In other words, skip it. And finally, number 31, Side to Side by Ariana Grande featuring Nicki Minaj.
Got me walking side to side. I've been here all night. I've been here all day. And boy, got me walking side to side. Been trying to hide it.
You know, I've said in the past that I'm a big fan of Nicki Minaj and Ariana Grande collaborating. Nicki operates as the cool, controlled older sister that's a great counterpart to Ariana's girlish exuberance. And while I still might think Get On Your Knees from the Pink Print might be the best example of their chemistry, those gummy reggae guitars playing up the low gurgling bass with the sharper percussion and the slight horn touches managed to play pretty well for me against that deeper mix, with only a synth in the final chorus that feels kind of unnecessary. And while Ariana doesn't quite use the restraint that works for her best material, she does handle the the reggae production pretty well, especially against Nicki's frigid verse here. As for the content, well, let's just say it's surprisingly filthy coming from Ariana when you know what walking side to side really means. Or that Nicki actually took out more explicit lyrics on her verse that couldn't push this song even filthier. But the funny thing is that for as much as the song is about Ariana getting all of the penis with her paramour, it's really a track that coasts by on raw ego. Who cares if she's feeling a little bit sore from all of it? She and Nicki are the ones who are really in charge here. Again, I think I might like get on your knees a little bit more, but right now, Ariana Grande is one of the few artists on the Hot 100 who has consistently produced likable pop music in 2016. So if this sticks around, hell yeah, I'm on board with this. So yeah, a bit of a mixed week, but overall I'd say it's kind of above average. For the best, Ariana and Nicki just run away with it to side, but I'm gonna give with a reggae theme here and give honorable mention to Wyclef Jean by Young Thug. Hey, kinda grew on me. As for the worst, yeah, Chris Brown gets it again with Grass Ain't Greener, but dishonorable mention is going to May We All by Flora Georgia Line for completely wasting Tim McGraw and that god-awful Travis Tritt and Tupac line, both of whom could handily kick their asses even from beyond the grave. Well, stay tuned for next week, where I expect things to get even more busy as the albums start to tumbling out and the singles inevitably show up. We're in the final months of the year, folks. It's gonna get busy. But until then, I'm Mark. You're watching Billboard Breakdown on Spectrum Pulse, and I will see you next time.